Hey, what's up everybody? How are you doing in this pandemic? Not great, I suppose? While the whole world was worried about COVID-19 and some exaggerating the virus to be the call of doomsday, we here at Cool as Dark thought of showing you the silver lining by reminding you of the pandemics from the past and letting you know that this is not the first time that mankind has been fighting this for a very long time now. So here's Cool as Dark, presenting a list of top 10 roles of India in past coronavirus-like outbreaks. Number 1. The Black Death in medieval India. In the year 1334, there was a major outbreak of plague in parts of Europe and Asia that led to the death of 1/4 of Europe's population. This event in history was so brutal that it was later known as the Black Death, and is still remembered as the worst killer of all pandemics that ever existed. This pandemic, though having sweeping impact in Europe, was believed that it originated in Central Asia or parts of India and spread to Europe via India. This theory was accepted by Western scholars and is still believed to be true by Western countries till date. However, the most chilling part is that there is no mention of any such outbreaks present in Indian history or in any of Indian records. Medieval Indian history questions the presence of an epidemic of that magnitude, and it suggests that even if there was an epidemic in India in the 14th century, it was not as infectious as the Black Death in Europe. Number 2. The Error. How could such a depression, both in terms of financials and medical conditions, go unnoticed in a highly civilized country like India? Was that a misconception, a rumor, or was that a pre-planned plot to defame and damage the Indian trade, which was booming lately? There is also another theory that suggests that the plague might have entered Europe by the Silk Road, which was the trade route of medieval ages that connected Asia with Europe. This route, however, was to the north of India, hence the medieval Western writers might have mistakenly written about the region being Indian. Number 3. The King's Involvement. Though there are very strong claims about the emergence of the plague in India during this time, the Indian subcontinent was then ruled by various well-known kings. The king in the north, from Delhi Sultanate, the one and only Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and in the south there was Bahmani Sultanate and Vijayanagara kings. Tughlaq's decision to shift his capital to Daulatabad led many people on their last journey. Historians of today claim that those mass deaths could have been the source point for the writers to report a pandemic in India. Number 4. The Ibn Battuta story. This was the same time when the famous traveller Ibn Battuta was travelling the country. He, alongside with Barani, who was Tughlaq's historian, writes about the epidemic that affected the Sultan himself. He also mentions the recovery of Sultan, which brings our skeptical thoughts to a conclusion, as we all know that plague was a fatal disease then. In another story, Ibn Battuta relates the mass death of northern India to hunger and not to any epidemics, as Western writers have reported. Number 5. The poisonous Indian vapors. The modern medicine, which we have been taking for granted for few years now, was not as effective nor was research topic as we have it today. The commonly held scientific notion regarding disease was such that they arise from a poisonous vapor that had been brought from eastern countries and was swallowed in with air. These structured beliefs were not of any layman's standards, but were regarded as science even though there was no hard evidence. It was only by the end of the 19th century the germ theory of disease had been put on a sound scientific basis, where the cause was identified as germs by great European scientists like Louis Pasteur. Number 6. The Secrets of Atharva Veda. While the West was lost until 1760s, India had ancient scriptures of Atharva Veda, where there is mention of worms or germs, which multiplies, enters human bodies and cause illness. The scriptures also read that the germs are visible and invisible to human eye. These scriptures are found to be 3,000 or more years old, and it is needless to say that they didn't have access to electronic microscope or even to a damn slingshot. Well, if you think that was mind-boggling, then that is not it. There is also mention of cure and causes for conditions which are still not understood thoroughly by today's researchers. There is even mention of conditions involving heart diseases and insanity. Unlike the Westerners' citation of poisonous vapors, the Atharva Veda explains the contagious nature of germs by metaphorically comparing to a flying bird. Genius. Number 7. The Bakshish from the Gods. We all know that discussions lead to opinions and opinions to doubts and doubts to more questions. Here is one such question that anyone looking through the history will come up with. Almost every century that's been ever recorded has mention of pandemics or epidemics or infestation by animals or by rivals or even by witchcraft that cause illness. But there is a big chunk of history between 8 and 14 AD where there is no mention of any outbreaks in India or anywhere else in the world. How could this be possible? Were there no outbreak at all? Or was it that history missed it to record? Or was the hit so hard that we have yet to explore the unknown? Number 8. Freedom from Firangi. No, not the British. It's syphilis, also known in India as Firanga or Firangi Roga. This reached the subcontinent in early 16th century and soon became widespread. Spanish writers describe Indians as lusty, which caused the spread of the disease. The British Army in India took this opportunity and deflected the blame for spread of disease from them and projected it onto others. Number 9. The Biological Warfare. It is not just the blame that British gave Indians. In 1763, British troops at Pittsburgh passed blankets infected with smallpox virus to the Indians, causing a devastating epidemic among their ranks. These strategies, although were not new or alien to Indians, as Chanakya from Mauryan Empire also suggested similar tactics in 350 BC. Number 10. The Demonic Interference. India was not all about highly advanced science fiction-like stuff, where there is nothing to cringe about. We do have our fair share of embarrassments too. Here is the section dedicated just for that. The structured stories like poisonous vapors were not limited to Western cultures alone. The all-glorious Atharva Veda has its traits too. Even though the germs were known to be culprits, the cause for their emergence in a human body was believed to be demonic interference. Scripts also read that human sorcery causes an evil eye produces diseases, whereas witchcraft cures them. For your surprise, these beliefs still dwell in most parts of rural India. Let us know what you think about this in the comment section below. We also suggest you to read the source article in the description for more interesting information. And if you like the video, please like, share, subscribe and hit the bell icon.